afternoon and welcome to this edition of KTN Newsdesk. My name is Ida Kimani. Let's have a look at some of the top stories we prepared ahead of this bulletin this afternoon. It's back to business. Parliament resumes sessions this afternoon after Christmas and New Year recess. Give us more time. Media houses in court seeking extension of digital migration. And it's a merger. PesaPoint merges to boost mobile money transactions. Welcome to the program. We begin this afternoon with news from the National Assembly, and the 11th Parliament resumes its sittings this afternoon on the back of a significant High Court ruling on salaries of members of the National Assembly and senators. Now, the High Court declared the National Assembly and Remuneration Act unconstitutional, citing that MPs and senators should not have the power to set their own salaries. MPs have, however, hinted that they may defy the judiciary on this issue once they resume their sittings. Parliament has a backlog of constitutional bills to be passed before August 27th. Before going on recess last December, MPs and senators worked overtime and hurriedly passed 30 crucial bills, with questions arising as to whether much thought was put into the bills during the short period they came for the debate. Constitution Implementation Commission CIC has in the past faulted bills that have been passed by Parliament, accusing the august House of shoddy work. And joining us now from Parliament buildings is our political editor, Ben Kitili, who is following up on Parliament's reopening, and he has more details for us. Ben, what do we expect will be spoken of this afternoon? What debates do we expect to be hearing?
Yes, indeed, Edith. We are coming to you live from Parliament buildings, where in a few minutes the second session of the 11th Parliament will be open. Behind me on the other side of the Parliament buildings, we could see a few minutes ago vehicles with members of Parliament starting to stream in ahead of the reopening of Parliament, which the 11th Parliament opens to a very busy entry, so to speak, concerning the amount of work that awaits them on different fronts. We did attend different parliamentary group meetings yesterday for the two main coalitions in this 11th Parliament, both Jubilee and CORD, and got to hear what they have in plan in this session of Parliament. Key among them is a backlog of constitutional bills of legislation that need to be passed. Key among those are 8 constitutional bills that should be in place by the 27th of August. That is 4 years after the promulgation of the supreme law of this land. And those 8 bills have to be in place in the next 6 months or so. These members of Parliament will be hoping to be able to do this work and do a good job to be able to beat what the Commission on the Implementation of the Constitution has been hitting out at Parliament for not doing. They have accused Parliament of doing a shoddy job concerning those bills. Now, the Jubilee coalition did say they will be pushing in the first sittings of this Parliament to push for the ways of fund regulations, that is in conjunction with that promise that was made in the run-up to the 2000 election. The 6 billion Kenya shillings that was saved from the election because there was no runoff after the presidential polls were completed in March last year. They will be looking at that. They will be seeking to set out the framework for this ways of fund regulations. Another thing that they will be hoping to do and to look at is the starting to make the budget process. The budget making process will be beginning concerning it is only about 4 months to the end of this financial year. They will be hoping to be able to push the Secretary of Treasury to be able to start that process. Edith.
Ben, it's good that you've mentioned the budget, and indeed they're going to approve the supplementary budget, which will, among other things, see increments of salaries for teachers, doctors and other civil servants who are on strike last year. But there's a crucial issue of the senators and also the members of parliament being unable to increase their salaries. Have you had any chatter outside of parliament buildings this morning with regard to that?
Well, it is clearly a point of concern. Kenyans will be looking at Parliament as it reopens this afternoon. So just see what will be happening. As you mentioned earlier, this is coming just barely a week after the High Court nullified, declared that National Assembly and Remuneration Act unconstitutional, just hitting out at members of Parliament, saying that they have no business whatsoever to determine their pay packs. Kenyans will be hoping to see what happens. There has been talk of both the Senate and the National Assembly planning to use an orthodox method, so to speak, to be able to get around this. There is talk of the Parliament hoping to amend Article 260 of the Kenyan Constitution, which makes senators, members of Parliament, and members of county assemblies public officers. That is what they... there have been reports of the members of Parliament trying to get around that, to be able to amend that article, to be able to make members of county assemblies, senators, and members of Parliament not be public officers, saying that they are doing that to be able to institute the separation of powers to protect the freedom of Parliament. But that will be... Kenyans will be looking at that to make sure that does not happen. That will be a way of trying to beat that declaration by the High Court that the members of Parliament cannot cannot determine their pay packs.
Ben, I'm sorry for interjecting, but we do have to talk about this before we wind up with you. We also expect two House committees to table their findings on the very controversial standard gauge railway tender, of course coming against the back of President Uhuru Kenyatta, saying that it will continue no matter what people are saying. What has been said with regard to that?
Sorry, come again, Edith, with your last question.
I mean, this is with regard to the standard gauge railway tender. Two committees are expected to table their findings in Parliament. Have we any idea what may be contained in those submissions?
Well, it is not clear what the Public Investments Committee and the other committee investigating this particular standard gauge railway tendering process will be having to say on that particular issue. But what we have heard clearly, like you mentioned, from the Jubilee Coalition, from the President himself, is that despite all the questions that have been raised about the tendering process for this multi-billion Chinese-funded project, is that it will go on despite these questions. They have asked anyone with concrete evidence to be able to come out. So we shall be waiting to see what the two committees of Parliament will be tabling in those reports, and see what reaction that elicits from especially the minority coalition in Parliament, that is CORD, who have said they will fight tooth and nail to be able to fight what they called institutionalized corruption inside the Jubilee government. They did say that yesterday in their PG group meeting. It was one of their main resolutions after that retreat in Naivasha, saying that they will fight corruption in government. They singled out the standard gauge railway, saying it is one major project that harbors a lot of corruption, and they did say that they will fight that. So it will be interesting to see how both sides of the Parliament, of the National Assembly and Senate as well, react to this. Standard gauge railway is one of those reports that will be bringing a showdown in both houses. Another thing also is the TJRC report, which will be brought to Parliament later on in this session. Another one is the Westgate Terror Probe report, which is also expected to be tabled in Parliament. Those are some of the key issues that will be debated in this session that Kenyans should be looking out for. And another thing to point out very quickly as I wind up is that the President will not be addressing Parliament as it reopens, as is tradition. It will be doing that in the next 2 weeks or so.
All right. Thank you very much, Ben Kitilia, political editor, coming to us live from Parliament, where he will be following the resumption of Parliament sessions, the second session after their holiday break. Let's now look at something else that's been happening throughout the month, and actually from last year. This is the three media houses, the Standard Group Limited, Nation Media Group and Royal Media Services, who are now seeking to be considered in the allocation of the digital signal transmission. They have told the Court of Appeal that the High Court was actually wrong in making their determination by dismissing their petition. Catherine Omwanto, our senior reporter, is live at the Court of Appeal and she brings us more details on that story. Catherine, over to you.
Now, the first advocate who was to give his argument in court before the three Court of Appeal judges was Fred Ngatia, who is representing GoTV, which is an affiliate station of MultiChoice Kenya. Now, Ngatia gave a chronological account of what happened. So he went through documents upon documents of records, of meetings, of minutes, and he was first to say that media stakeholders were indeed included in the digital migration process, or rather the administrative process of the digital migration. He says that there were two committees that were formed, or two groups that were formed, and each committee did include media practitioners. The first was the task force that was to see the way forward and whether digital migration can work for the country, and in that task force media practitioners were included. The second communication committee was also set up to see how to roll out the digital migration process, and also media practitioners were also included. This is according to his argument. Now, he also said that one of the petitioners, or one of the media houses which has petitioned for the push for the digital migration date, did not actually apply for a frequency, or for the license to distribute frequencies. Now, there are 3 licenses that will be given to various stations. The first license was given by default to the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, and the second license, through a tender, was given to MultiChoice to distribute frequencies. Now, the third one is still in the process of being allocated. So Fred Ngatia says that one of the media houses did not apply for that particular license, and therefore should not really be in the case. Now, what is interesting is that just as before we were about to adjourn, or before, go for recess, one of the appeal court judges said that maybe, the government should sit down with the stakeholders and also the media houses and come to a logical conclusion out of court settlement. His sentiments were echoed by a second judge who jokingly said that maybe this the 15-minute recess, but obviously that process wasn't done, and the recess concluded, and we went back into court, and Fred Ngatia took the stand again and gave out his arguments going through the documents. This is the third day of the appeal case, and it will continue until an out-of-court settlement, or until the 3 judges make a ruling on the issue. Back to you, studio.
Well, thank you very much, Catherine Omwanto, for that very concise and comprehensive update on what's going on at the courts. Remember, the Court of Appeal will continue to hold digital migration until that particular case is determined. Let's have a look at what's happening in Nakuru now. And police in that town, particularly at the Nakuru Railways police station, have recovered vandalized railway metal rod pieces worth $500,000 shillings. The 30 pieces of railway metal rods, each measuring an average of about 8 feet, were intercepted at Maji Mazuri area along Nakuru Eldoret Highway on Monday night. The railway rods were packed inside a Nissan Matatu. According to Inspector in charge of operations at the station, Jane Alengo, the police were following a tip-off from the public. She says that about 12 to 15 suspects fled the police when they realized they were being tracked. The owner of the vehicle is currently being held at the station. Communities living along the borders of Samburu, Isiolo and Meru counties have been urged to cooperate in the fight against cattle rustling that has impacted negatively on the peace and economic livelihoods of the communities. Speaking in Samburu East Sub-County, County Commissioner of Meru and Isiolo said in 2013 alone, the communities lost up to 887 head of cattle and 1,497 goats. Despite efforts by security agencies in the area to curb cattle rustling, the borderlines of these communities remain insecure.
Sasa tunasema tunaenda namna gani? Kwa hivyo tu tunaambia hako pastor umoja kana aenda safari, anatuhurumia, anadukutana munjia. Sasa kidukutana anatupatia ati acha niwasimamishie gari ibafikishe huko, na mwe mnaona kisi mnajiaranje tu. Sasa aba mama bambere balisha ingia.
He was obviously not talking about cattle rustling. We apologize for the mix-up in that video footage, but we'll get back to it in just a few seconds. But, you know, in a bid to reduce the cost of technology for non-profit organizations in Kenya, Computers for Schools Kenya, or CFSK, has initiated a discount program tagged TechSoup Kenya. The core business of CFSK being to facilitate educational development and seeking to play an advisory role in the government's free laptop for schools project.
We have already set up the right infrastructure, ICT infrastructure in schools, and the laptop program is coming in good time. We've been in partnership with the Ministry of Education, the government, and we've been giving them all the advice. And as this, we see as a gesture to improve our learning in schools.
The Transform Kenya Awards have finally reached the home stretch. Now this morning, the Standard Media Group CEO, Sam Shalay, officially handed over the entries to knowledge partner Riara University. Upon receiving the entries, the university's Vice-Chancellor, Kiari Mwaura, said that the vetting team that will begin its work next week consists of senior lecturers and officials from the Standard Group. The vetting team is set to select 15 finalists to be awarded come next month.
We've been very successful. There were 24,200 entries that were received. However, when we've looked at what we've seen, there are 3,000 unique, 3,003 unique nominees, and this would be institutions, this would be individuals that are seen by the communities that they operate in to have gone out of their way over the last many years to transform those communities.
These awards are very important because they seek to recognize people who are making a difference in their communities. These could be people who are making a difference in the areas of agriculture, manufacturing, arts and culture, education, civil society, and these are the unsung heroes who really go about their work in most cases without getting the kind of recognition that we are going to be giving them.
The data as a national outlook, it's countrywide, and it reflects actually more or less what has been the main theme for this campaign, just to identify people who have really transformed. We are looking at transformation here in terms of transformation as to being very innovative, transformation as to quality of life, transformation in terms of what something is being done slightly different from the way it is really coming out.
We take a short commercial break, but when we come back, I'll be telling you how you can get life insurance even if you're a low-income earner. And also, the Kisumu Stadium is almost complete. Trust me, you want to see how it looks now. And of course, your Did You Know fact. Stay tuned. Welcome back to KTN Newsdesk. We're glad you're still watching. Let's have a look at the business now. And low-income earners living in peri-urban and rural areas will now enjoy the privileges of life insurance. This follows a partnership between Jubilee Insurance, Citadel Microfinance, and Umande Trust to introduce Tumaini ya Maisha life insurance cover. The cover is a bundle product against risks of fire, disability, and funeral, with annual premium rates of between 450 shillings and 4,500 shillings payable through mobile money platforms. The partners seek to also enable 97% of Kenyan populations without insurance cover to access quality and affordable life, health, and education. The partners added that through life insurance coverage in Kenya, though life insurance in Kenya remains dismally low, they intend to work closely with to drive higher uptake of the product.
Results is 3.04%. As a result of poor perception that people have, there's lack of trust, and sometimes misperception that insurance is very costly. Now, this is the area where Jubilee's strength is coming through to make sure that we are ready and we are able to provide affordable insurance solutions to everybody.
The cover is not limited to Nairobi residents alone. We are actually looking at what we call peri-urban areas. Those are maybe now the informal settlements within Nairobi. And then we are looking at the other settlements, which is basically the rural.
The PayNet Group has merged its PesaPoint business with PEP Intermediates as it seeks to grow its business in the country. The merger is targeted at launching a mobile money transaction platform to facilitate the growth of the company. The merged agents network are expected to take advantage of the huge growth and demand financial services touch points and deliver to Kenyans multiple products and services through a single agent network. PesaPoint currently runs a multi-stakeholder ATM network in partnership with 32 financial institutions and 2 mobile money networks with a network of 1,500 agent outlets. PEP, on the other hand, runs an exclusive chain of over 150 agent outlets offering mobile money and agency banking services, including agents outlet at all the 14 Nakumatt stores countrywide. The merger is believed to be a 50-50 share split, with both entities having equal representation on the board.
I think in terms of the next wave in Kenya is clearly around agents, and you're quite right. Introducing mobile money into the agency bouquet that we have was very important, and so I think that's for us is a starting point.
Combination marks a significant step in the implementation of our strategic priorities, driving the number of transactions per agent, extending our footprint even further, and activation the PesaPoint brand.
Internationally, Copenhagen Zoo in Denmark has sparked outrage by killing a healthy young giraffe and dismembering it in public, ready to feed to its lions. The perfectly healthy young giraffe was shot dead at the Copenhagen Zoo despite an online petition to save it signed by thousands of animal lovers. The 18-month-old giraffe was put down with a bolt gun early on Sunday. The body of the giraffe, which was killed in a bid to prevent inbreeding, was then chopped up in a public autopsy, ready to be fed to carnivores at the zoo. The zoo explained that it had no choice other than to prevent the animal attaining adulthood. It's so sad, isn't it? To sports now, and the Kisumu Stadium is in its completion process of laying the artificial turf and is expected to end this Friday. Now, the stadium, which has been a center of pointing fingers, is in the final stages of gluing the linings and positioning of the goalpost. The stadium is also a target for defending champions Gor Mahia, who are said to be interested in making it a home turf. The subcontractor is optimistic that the turf completion will end by Friday, and finally clearing side for the field for players to enjoy a conducive environment. The stadium is now waiting to be handed over to the county government on Sunday.
We've achieved quite a change on the field, and well, with the group of people well willing to work, I think for the next coming 3 days we should be through with the gluing and the linings, positioning the goals and the corners. And then after, what's remaining, which will be done over the weekend, is to put the 150 tons of rubber on top, and then basically the field is finished.
We are coming to the end of this project basically by end of this week. As you have seen, we are doing the linings, what Lex has told you. We are gluing the turf, which will be through by Thursday. Then the goals and everything will be ready. So what is left is just clearing the sides of the field so that people who come to play in this field by next week will enjoy a conducive environment for playing.
It's now time to end this edition of KTN Newsdesk. My name is Edith Kimani. Remember, do log on to www.standardmedia.co.ke to get these stories as and when they are being updated. To a did you know fact now, did you know there is a fake village with a fake shopping area? Like it has fake shops and restaurants as well. They're all fake restaurants. And the reason is because it's a care home for elderly dementia sufferers in the Netherlands. My name is Edith Kimani. Good afternoon.